Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the Coal Seam. I'm Chris Hamilton with the Coal Association. I'll be your host for the next half hour. Every year as summer begins to fade, it seems like football, and in particular West Virginia University and Marshall University's football teams begin to occupy a great deal of the discussion and debate. And perhaps the most anticipated rivalry is just that, the annual Friends of Coal Bowl featuring West Virginia University and Marshall University, our state's two cornerstone institutions. Today we are going to be discussing the upcoming 2011 Friends of Coal Bowl, and joining me here in our studio is Friends of Coal spokespersons and former legendary coaches, West Virginia University's Don Nehlen and Marshall University's Bobby Pruitt. Coaches, thanks so much for taking the time to talk a little bit about the upcoming game and some of your experiences in that game. Coach Nehlen, why don't we start with you? Okay. As we were just talking, it seems like the current rivalry was actually renewed back a decade or so ago when the two schools faced off. In fact, you guys faced off during that what some of us would call the inaugural game between West Virginia University and Marshall. What's some of your reflections of that game, what it meant to you personally, what you think it meant and means today for the state?
Well, that was, what year was that, Bob?
97.
97. You know, I remember the game, it was the opening game, and it was the first time that we had played Marshall for a long, long time, at least in my 20-some years there at West Virginia. But it was a great football game. They had a great team, and I forget exactly how good we were, but we were a pretty good team. And we had a lot of NFL kids. You know, they had Moss and Pennington, and it was a real good football game. The big thing about that game was it got everybody excited about the season. Marshall and West Virginia starting the year out, and the crowd was unbelievable. Had a great day, and it just turned out to be a wonderful football game. And like I say, you know, Chris, when I think about the game, and you know, it's easy now when you sit back. I'm an old retired guy, and I'm up in the stands eating a daggone hot dog and just watching the game. But when I think about it, it just seems to make sense to me. You know, I think our second game was with Norfolk State, I think. And I don't think anybody's going to get too excited about that game. But they're going to get excited about Marshall just because it's in the state of West Virginia. When I coached at Michigan, everybody got excited about Michigan State game. And I think this could be the same type of rivalry.
Coach Pruitt, what's some of your thoughts? What's some of your reflections of the 97 game?
Well, that was our first Division I game. It's the first game we played Division I. We'd been 1AA. Of course, that was a huge factor, but probably of any game I've ever coached or played in, that's the most memorable one for me, because being from the state of West Virginia, growing up here in Beckley, or East Beckley, West Virginia, and having played at Marshall, and to get the opportunity to play on that stage against a great football coach in Coach Nehlen, and the great program he had was such great class that you know, it's just been, of all the games we ever played with, all the championships and all, even as an assistant, that's the game that I cherish the most. And it wasn't a game that we won. I just thought it was a very special game for me personally, for the Marshall program, and I think for the state of West Virginia, because it gave a great interest, excitement to the season, anticipation. And I think that you can throw all the records out when you play that game, because there's so much emotion in it now, you know, and no matter what you say, there is emotion in it, because it's which side downplays it or upplays it, it's still, you go out there and you know that both sides are going to be playing hard. It's like at the end of the game, the winning team, and it's been West Virginia so far, but I remember last year's game, for the game not to mean anything, they was awful excited when it was over, you know. And,
That's right.
And I think that it's great for the state of West Virginia. I mean, there's a full house. Every penny that's made, or T-shirt or Coca-Cola or whatever thing that's sold in that game, no matter where, all the publicity, everything about all that money stays in our state. Every ticket that's sold, everything stays in the state, and certainly both schools need that type of thing. The guarantee that goes to the other team stays in the state, so there's not a great cost of going back and forth. I mean, it's just a business. If you just take from a business standpoint, it just makes good sense business-wise to keep that money here, to play here, and to have fun here and have excitement here. Whether you're for the game, against the game, you're talking about the game, and that's all you care about. Good publicity, bad publicity, as long as you got publicity, and excitement for your program.
Well, I think most sports enthusiasts would concur. It's good. It's good for the state, and as you say, Coach, all the money stays right here. We're just going to bounce around here a little bit. Mm-hmm. Fast forward here. It's hard to believe. First of all, that game was that many years ago, and many of those guys that were featured during that game, and I forget, someone indicated. I don't want to guess wrong, but there were quite a few individuals who went on and had professional football careers. In fact, a lot of those guys, their careers are winding down as we sit here today after 12, 14 years in the league. Pennington, Moss, and
his whole team. Yeah. I mean, I never seen anybody. I'll tell you one thing about the game. The only thing that I knew, we were in trouble in the game. I was standing right there, and they flipped a coin, and the guy from West Virginia said heads, and it turned up heads, and the official looked at him and says, "We won. What do you want?"
Yeah.
Our ball.
We won. I said, "Oh, we're in trouble today."
But, when I think about that game, that really was a good football game. Yeah. And Bob had such a great team, and he had all of his teams were great. But, I agree with Bob completely on that game. Whoever you're for, it doesn't matter. Everybody in the state of West Virginia is going to talk about that game. Everybody's going to talk about it. And Marshall's next 10 games, everybody in Huntington's not going to talk about all of them, but they're going to talk about West Virginia. I guarantee you, everybody's going to talk about the Marshall game up in the Morgantown area. And after that, some will talk about it and some not. But it's like I say, the stadiums are going to be filled. They're going to be filled.
And the kids playing in that, especially the in-state kids, that's a treasure for a lifetime for those guys to be able 10, 15, 30 years from now talk about the game they played in, the Coal Bowl where they played. So it's very important from that standpoint as well. But fast forward, and all of a sudden here we are, on the eve of the 2011 game, which will be played Labor Day weekend, actually on a Sunday afternoon. 3 or 3:30, I forget the exact time, but there's both schools have experienced some major changes here over the past 12 or 14 months. Marshall, Doc Holliday is going to start his just his second season as head coach. In the case of West Virginia,
we've made some changes.
We've made some changes, but there's a brand new coach who will debut with at the Friends of Coal Bowl.
Yeah.
What do you think about some of those changes and some of the other changes with respect to what can one anticipate this year? Well, how about Coach Holliday in his second season?
First of all, I think that no coach, if he's, and I'm sure Coach Nealon will concur with this, the bigger the game, the more you want to be in it. I mean, you don't want to play in a bunch of no-meaning games. I mean, that's the excitement, the thrill of being a coach. Now, I know that all the questions and some of the things leading up to it sometimes is distracting. But when you actually get out there in the game and think about the game and you're coaching the game, is the bigger the game, the more people there, the more excitement. That's the reason we get into it, the challenge of winning. Yep. And I think that what we were trying to do at Marshall, we come off of one AA national championship, and we were trying to make a splash in Division I football and see how far we could take the program. And Coach was he was a little, his program, he'd played for a national championship or two. And he, you know, he had it going good. But that's what you want to try and do. And you don't really worry. I never one time heard him worry about his schedule. You know, it's who the schedule is with. That's who we're going to play, and we got to win them all. We're undefeated at the start. We got to win them all to win a national championship. And I think if he's like me, we went after the conference championship. We had to win that first, and then anything that happened after that. But I think that this deal, I'm getting off track a little bit. This deal about worrying about winning and losing, neither school should worry about winning and losing. They should worry about the opportunity to win another football game with a lot of excitement around them and push them forward in the champion. I think the Marshall game last year really did a lot for West Virginia's football team last year, confidence-wise, and it pushed them forward to have a really pretty good year. And you know, those are great things. I think that these two coaches are really good coaches. I think that they have an exciting brand of football, and I think it's going to be a big ball game. Of course, whoever loses the game, it's going to be a little pressure on it. But I mean, that's part of it.
Well, I agree with Bob totally. You know, Dana's having his first game, and he is, I understand, an offensive mastermind. And I've watched him in the spring, and I'll say one thing, he's going to throw the football. And he's got a guy that can throw it. And he has some fellas that can catch it. So West Virginia is going to play a very exciting brand of offensive football. I think that West Virginia has always played, Chris, solid defense. You know, I've always felt that you win championships with defense. I've always felt that way. I took my best player, hopefully was my quarterback, and then I'd go to my tailback, and then after that I went with my defensive kids because I felt defense was so important. And I think that West Virginia, they lost a lot of kids, but they can run, so they'll have a good defense. I think Marshall's going to have a very good defense, and talking to Coach Holliday, he feels that they're very good on defense. So it should be a good football game again. I really believe that. And I agree with Bob and you. I don't think it really matters a whole heck of a lot. Last year, West Virginia was supposed to win easily. I want you to know one thing. They were the luckiest daggone team I ever saw just getting out of there. So how good you are, I don't think matters a whole heck of a lot. It's a game that it's going to be played with a lot of emotions. And if you drop the ball at the wrong time, probably you're going to lose. And that's basically what happened to Marshall last year. They fumbled the ball at the wrong time and lost their momentum, but it'll be exciting, I'm sure of that.
You know, in a traditional instance, you had your classic tailback behind the big fullback. Seems like last couple of years, both schools, and maybe this has been a trend around the country as well, but it seems like both schools have little difference between some of the receivers and running backs. Some of the running backs end up as receivers, and some of the receivers end up as running backs, and almost seems like they're interchangeable within the defensive or offensive schemes that both schools are employing. A lot of great athletes.
Yeah, well, you know, I think so many people have gone to the spread offense, where, you know, kind of getting mismatches out there, linebackers on wide receivers and so forth. You know, my grandson plays for West Virginia, and naturally I can interested in my grandson, and he tells me, he says, Grandpa, he said, I really like our offense because it's so simple to learn. He says, I always line up the same place. And he says, mentally, I don't have a big challenge. He said last year's football team, a lot of kids were confused at times. And he said right now, offensively, with just a spring, he says everybody seems to know where they're going. And I think that's an advantage. But like I say, and Bob's the same way, everybody's going to the spread. I'm still a little old-fashioned. My last few years when I coached, the spread was my third down offense. I kind of like to run the ball. I wanted to come up 3rd down and 3, something like that. I didn't, you know, I was more of a play action guy on 1st down and 2nd down. I didn't spread them out too much on 1st down. But it's, you know, football goes in a cycle. probably the eye will come back in 5 or 10 years, who knows. But the
Interesting.
spread's the name of the game right now.
Let's switch gears just a little bit. Both of you started second careers, so to speak. Been working as spokespersons for Friends of Coal, and we really appreciate the job you've been doing there, and the and the outreach, and all the people in our industry that you've touched and come in contact with. What made that transition period easy, going from football to speaking on coal and energy issues? And what's some of your thoughts or perceptions that you've acquired from that experience?
Well, it was easy for me. My daddy was a coal miner, and my wife's dad was a coal miner, and her brother's a coal miner. So we grew up in the coal industry, and it's such an integral part of the state of West Virginia. And ever since I was got into college coaching, I always recruited the state of West Virginia, and a lot of it in southern West Virginia, not as near as much in the northern part of the state. And having traveling back and forth into War and Big Creek and Welch and down through there, you're just around those folks, and so I think understanding and doing it even as I was coaching, I knew and felt the importance of coal to our state and to the people of the state, and it was something that I think that Coach is a people person. That's the reason he was such a great recruiter, and I think I tried to be. And I think that once you're a people person, you have to understand what the makeup is, and this was a very easy, natural transition for me, because the love of the state of West Virginia, which we both have, and understanding the importance of the coal industry to the state and to the people of the West Virginia and to our nation, that it was just an easy thing to do and a passionate thing for us to do, and we do it with it's a lot of fun.
Well, you're both very energized and passionate about coal, and I know from personal experience our people and the families of those individuals who work at a mine every day. They're just so appreciative. I don't think you guys have any real comprehension of how many lives you've touched in your former capacities as head coach at these two schools, but people just appreciate you taking the time to talk with them and sharing some of your experiences. And when they feel the camaraderie that you're actually representing now, representing what they do for a profession, it just means a great deal. Coach, I know you come from.
Well, I'm just the opposite of Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Bob grew up with coal. I didn't know anything about coal. I grew up in Ohio and ended up in Michigan, and then came to West Virginia. And I heard so much about coal, but I didn't know anything. And but it wasn't too long until I met Bill Rainey, and before long I said, Bill, I'm the coach here at West Virginia, and I don't know anything about coal. And it was embarrassing to me, but I found out in a heck of a hurry. And what I found out is what great people the coal miners are, just salt of the earth. And Bill took me down, and the first mine I went into, I came out and I said, man, if I could get my team to play as well as those guys move, you could see the passion in their eyes. And this guy depended on that guy, and that guy depended on that guy, kind of like a football team.
Mm-hmm.
And you run off tackle, the end and tackle better do something, the fullback better do something, you're going up in there. But I'm really, really pleased that I'm able to work with the Coal Association, because I believe in it so much. And just being able to be with Bob, it makes a great thing for me. And like I say, he grew up with it. He knows more about it than I do, but I think I've become a quick learner. I really, I think the coal industry, in fact, it frustrates me because I'm not very smart, and I can't understand how our country can not embrace the coal industry. Seems like we take our natural resources and they're a liability instead of a daggone asset. I mean, I don't know what these daggone politicians think about, but that's just me.
Well, you know, as you know, we get great support from our political leadership here within the state of West Virginia, and our congressional representative, the senators and House of Representative members that come from and represent West Virginia, seem to be working in unison with our state electorate, and they're very supportive of the industry. Seems like most of the the issues we're up against today, or challenges, are clearly coming out of Washington with policy and what I would call political decisions, not technical, decisions, but are political decisions that come out of Washington, geared towards pushing a certain political agenda. And no sense to get in that too far here today, but we sure appreciate the work that you guys are doing and trying to encourage people to get involved and to speak out, and we think all that's having a big effect.
I think our state's in a war. We're in a war for survival, and I think it's an important issues, and we just got to stand up and be proud, and the fight that we have, that we will win. We will win. The good Lord wouldn't have put it here if He didn't mean it for us to use it. And
I agree, Bob. That's good.
Those are both a couple great quotes. That and what you said about coal needs to be viewed more like an asset than a liability, because it is an asset. There's no question about that. And when you start thinking about, you don't go too far in the state and you see a huge delegation of Marshall alumni, WVU alumni, and you also see, no matter where you go, a huge delegation of people that work in the coal industry. Someone said here a couple years ago that when you think of the 60, 70,000 people who are directly involved with the industry within the state, it's about the same amount of people that turn out on a sunny afternoon in Mountaineer Field to watch a game in Morgantown. About 60, 70,000 people, and that's the number that show up every day at a coal mine in this state. And when you think about it in those terms, or twice the number that shows up in Huntington, I mean, that's a huge number, large number of people that represent this industry. And that's production, that's all the support and construction jobs, vendors, that account for some role within the overall coal economy every day.
Well, Chris, like Bob said, hey, it's literally a war. If we would happen to lose that war, this state would be in a heap of hurt. And we can't afford to lose the war we're not going to.
Just come back from a couple weeks now, the auto show in Beckley, and boy, great turnout down there. That annual event really brings people from all over southern West Virginia, and it's grown. I forget the head count, but I know there was probably I want to say 25,000, 30,000 people anyway that visited. The fairgrounds for one of the shows, or just to mill around.
I was talking to Warren Hilton, who sort of heads it up, and he said that they were over the at one point on Saturday they were up 43,000 people.
Wow.
Total attendance at that time. So it's the biggest attendance that we've had at that, and it's a great deal. It's a showcase for the southern part of the state, and they just do a fine job up there. It's awesome, and we feel very fortunate to be part of it. And we get to see and meet a lot of the Friends of Coal, and that's the biggest change that I've seen in the years that I've been back in the state since '96. Is the development of the Friends of Coal and what the attention that the Friends of Coal and the Coal Association has made to our industry, and the positive points that it's making in making our problems and issues everybody aware of them, so we can address them and get them fixed. We're not perfect, but we hope to be perfect. As I told our football team before every game, I want you to play as close to perfect as possible, realizing nobody's perfect, but we're going to strive for perfection. And the Friends of Coal and the Coal Association and the coal operators of the state of West Virginia strive for perfection in every part of it, production, safety, and whatever. And I think that's the thing that thrills Coach and I so much, to see an industry and a group of people striving for perfection.
Well, I think Coach hit on it earlier. There's a lot of similarities between playing football or any athletics, and for that matter, and the production of coal. Just you got a plan. The plan is executed. A tremendous amount of preparation, individualized training, even a lot of film viewing in both training for mining and energy related jobs and football. But the amount of preparation is phenomenal into both, and the teamwork, obviously.
You know, Chris, the people in the state of West Virginia and people across the country, I don't think they have any idea the work that goes into mining coal, and the systems and the organization and everything that goes into it. It's amazing to me. The equipment, the repair of the equipment, getting it into the mine. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me.
People know it's not pick and shovel, but they have no idea the sophistication of all the electro-hydraulics and state-of-the-art technologies that are used.
Well, anything with a championship team, and I think that we mine coal here better than anybody in the world, and we know what we're doing here about coal in the world, and you're furnishing the utensils to mine the coal. It's like Coach's team, he downplays this, but when we went up there, he had Bolger, he had Zaraway, he had Beck, he had Steels, he had Porter. It was that big defensive lineman name was it covered that blocked out the sun there one whole half. He was so big. But I mean, Thornton, yeah.
Thunder Thornton.
Thunder Thornton. See, I'm just these guys had stellar careers in the NFL. We had good players too. But what I'm saying is, you know, I'd take his team and play either one of those teams this year, and he'd take my team and play either one of those. We had great players. Yeah. Now, if we're going to play for championships in football in Morgantown, they need to get those type of players. That's the reason he played for a championship. He had the complete deal, just like the coal industry. It's a complete deal. You got to recruit them, you got to coach them, they got to perform. That's the same thing in the coal mines.
Yep.
Get great people. You got to recruit them, give them the things they need to do to be successful, and then put a winning coach like Coach Neyland in.
Well, you guys sure have helped shore up the offense and defense in the Coal Association.
Right.
I'm here to attest to that. We got just literally just about 15 or 20 seconds left on the program here. Any predictions for this September 4th and the 6th annual Friends of Coal Bowl?
Be a good game.
Great game, Coach.
I tell you what, I'm going with the Herd.
He's going with the Herd, and I'm going with the Mountaineers.
No question about that.
But it'll be a heck of a game.
Yeah. And I'll wait and let you know who I'm supporting about 7 o'clock or so on September 4th. So with that closes out our show here this afternoon. And thanks so much for taking the time again, dropping by and just sharing some of your thoughts with us. With that, and on behalf of Coach Pruitt, Coach Neyland, that concludes our program for today. And thank you for tuning in and watching the Library channel.